Does connecting poor homes to tap water actually save lives? Or is that a complete myth? Every single year, governments and global organizations pour absolutely massive amounts of money, billions of dollars, into water infrastructure. And they do it under this universally accepted assumption that piping water directly into someone's home is a critical, life or death health intervention. Well, get ready for a pretty massive reality check. Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's dive right in. So, we all kind of know the standard narrative, right? Developing nations invest heavily in private tap water strictly to stop disease. It's treated as just basic common sense. Policymakers absolutely demand physical health metrics to justify funding these huge infrastructure projects. Basically, if an initiative doesn't cure a disease or drop mortality rates, it simply doesn't get funded. But prepare to have that common sense totally dismantled. To see why, we're looking at Tangiers, Morocco. Now, poor households here actually already had perfectly clean water, and it was free. It flowed freely from neighborhood public taps, so there was literally no lack of clean drinking water in the community. But there was a brutal catch. These families paid a grueling 7-hour weekly time tax just hauling heavy buckets back and forth. Just imagine what that actually does to your week. 7 hours of exhausting, back-breaking physical labor out in the hot sun, just to have enough water to wash your dishes or take a bath.
All right, so that brings us to part 1, the Morocco experiment.
Enter an incredible street experiment. Top economists from MIT and UCLA wanted to know what happens if you make getting a private home tap incredibly easy. You see, behavioral economists know this massive secret about human nature. Paperwork often kills demand way faster than cost. So instead of just lowering the price of the water, they targeted the hassle. They completely bypassed the crushing red tape and gave half the neighborhood a seamless VIP path. Step 1, offer a zero-interest loan. Step 2, the researchers literally went into people's living rooms to snap photos of their IDs themselves. And step 3 was securing bulk municipal approval. They created an environment of zero friction. And the results? They triggered a massive behavioral explosion. Simply cutting the paperwork caused a staggering 69% of people to buy in immediately. Meanwhile, the control group, the families left to navigate that municipal bureaucratic maze all by themselves, a measly 10%. A 59% jump purely from streamlining the application process is an earth-shattering result. It proves definitively that bureaucracy, not apathy or a lack of desire, was the true barrier stopping these families from upgrading their lives. The sheer scale of that hidden demand is just mind-blowing once administrative barriers vanish. Think about it. The money wasn't the biggest obstacle. The paperwork was. This single finding fundamentally changes how organizations should operate. Instead of constantly focusing on subsidizing costs or handing out free money, the focus needs to violently shift towards streamlining access. Just make the process invisible, and the demand practically takes care of itself.
Which leads us to part 2, zero health benefits. Now brace yourselves, because here comes the face slap twist. This is the most counterintuitive, logic-defying finding of the entire research paper: zero. That is the exact drop in child diarrhea and waterborne illness. Zero health benefits. Why? Well, because the free public water they already had was perfectly clean to begin with. Adding a private tap only increased the quantity of water families used for things like bathing and cleaning. It didn't change the quality of the drinking water. So the physical health benefits? Literally zero. And look, the researchers didn't just guess or ask people for hazy estimates months later. They used highly rigorous illness diaries. Mothers filled these out every single day, tracking daily self-reported health outcomes to ensure the data was absolutely bulletproof. This wasn't some retrospective survey where memories fade. This was real-time empirical tracking. The data doesn't lie. The whole physical health argument for installing private taps in this specific scenario, it is completely busted. It was a total illusion. But here's where it gets wild. Before the experiment, these families had free public water. After, they eagerly took on debt. Their monthly water bills literally doubled from $11 to $21. Think about the sheer irrationality of this choice under traditional economic models. Why would the poorest households willingly double their monthly expenses, actively taking on significant debt for absolutely zero physical health gains? It breaks every standard assumption we have about behavior in poverty. Let's make sense of it in part 3. Buying time and peace. So the crucial point is this burning question. If it didn't cure diseases and it cost them a fortune, why did 69% of them willingly drown themselves in debt to get it? Traditional development economics heavily assumes that any time saved by the poor will automatically be redirected into productive labor or extra schooling to escape poverty.
Yeah, well, that assumption was entirely shattered. This saved 7 hours a week, didn't go to extra work, kids didn't use them to study more, the time went entirely to leisure and simply hanging out. It's a massive paradigm shift.
You see, they were executing a brilliant psychological trade-off. They weren't buying health, they were buying peace. Think about what a neighborhood public tap actually looks like in the blazing heat. It's crowded, it's tense, and it breeds conflict. The severe social cost of sharing public resources is immense. By getting private taps, these families completely eliminated vicious daily neighborhood fights waiting in line. They ended stressful screaming matches over shared neighborhood bills. They stopped bitter family arguments over whose turn it was to go fetch the heavy buckets.
The findings proved that massive surges in life satisfaction and huge jumps in mental well-being occurred simply by removing a daily, grinding burden. Standard global development metrics completely fail to capture mental well-being, but this explainer shows that psychological relief is immensely valuable to people living in poverty. They will literally pay double their income just to stop arguing with their neighbors and buy back their own time.
All right, bringing it home with part 4, the real power of credit.
Let's zoom out to the big picture and see what this actually means for global economics. Because it completely flips how we view interventions. Happiness is highly contagious. Watching neighbors become demonstrably happier, seeing them relax and enjoy their newly acquired free time was the ultimate proof. A year later, control group applications surged from 10 to 27%. This proves that behavioral interventions don't just work in isolation. They create this powerful ripple effect that changes entire communities organically, making the control group happily fight through the red tape themselves.
Now, we do need to rapid-fire the academic critique of the methodology here. The study's credit intervention was undeniably a brilliant nudge. But measuring income shifts in just a 5-month window, actually, that's a major flaw. True economic shifts take years to materialize. It takes time for someone to figure out how to use 7 extra hours a week to start a small business or find a new job. By cutting the data off so early and relying on notoriously flawed self-reported income data, the study might still be vastly underestimating the long-term financial benefits.
So I want to leave you with this provocative final thought. Are we getting poverty alleviation completely wrong? We constantly assume the poor only care about raw survival. We force rigid health metrics onto every single infrastructure project, essentially treating people in poverty purely as survival machines, requiring medical interventions. But maybe, just maybe, they're human beings. Human beings who value convenience, their precious time, and a little peace of mind just as much as anyone else.